I see them as very subtle, and I think their music is very nuanced. I think some people find it monotonous, especially if you're used to like music with a ton of crescendos, which this album does have a few songs with some nice crescendos, particularly the opening track. But just as a whole, I think a lot of people get that impression when they listen to some of the National. But this album, I think it's just so tight. The songwriting is like, there's not really any filler there for me at least, and it just really speaks to me. They did take time to grow on me, admittedly, but
What kind of
once they do,
music
they're
is it
kind of
again? Like, is it alt rock? Like,
yeah. I said alt rock. I think yeah, I would say alt rock, but they're also considered, and this album specifically too, they're kind of considered like post punk.
oh, okay, we're getting into really, yeah.
Yeah, or they call it post punk revival. Kind
That's
of like
funny.
inspired by this
I feel
sound of
so
garage.
old right now.
Now, MC Lars actually calls himself post-punk laptop rap.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, so I've heard that before.
I'm just gonna
Yeah, so I
play
wonder
this
what you think
segment
of
to my
National.
family, and they'd just be dumbfounded.
If you did what?
I'm just gonna play this section of the podcast to my mother and grandmother, and they're just gonna be dumbfounded.
How come?
Yeah, why?
Because post-punk revival, like I feel like that's something that will perplex them.
Well, hi, Josh's mom and grandma.
Yeah.
Aloha.
My grandmother's just discovering what hip hop is, so
She's just learning that fast part of Rap God right now.
yeah.
But have you guys listened to the National at all?
I've
No,
actually
I
never
haven't.
heard of them.
Same, yeah. I haven't heard of them even.
Yeah, I honestly until well, it sounds stupid, but I mean until I had started listening to them, I actually hadn't heard them either. I literally had not. And then I think I was looking up top albums list, and I saw them like ranked high, fairly decent amount. I think one thing that makes them kind of unique, and for better or worse, is that a lot of times you will see them, let's say, hit some top charts here and there, but they're not going to be like stereotypical, like this is the best album of the decade, or this is one of the top bands of the decade. Because I think, like I said about the crescendo thing, they're not a showy band, and I'm trying to think of how better to articulate that, but
Say
they're not
like
going to.
minimalist, maybe.
Yeah, I guess you could say minimalist. Yeah, and like a lot of people use the disparaging remark monotonous. Um, but and I think yeah, even the first time I heard it, it's hard to describe. But a friend of mine actually had the same experience with them. Like the first time we heard them, like we had enough desire to want to listen to them more. So there was something about the music that stuck with us, but it
Did you
was
say?
very like subtle and minimalist, which is
You
funny that
say
my
like
number
they're?
two kind of like.
Would you say like structurally is very samey, like like first verse hook, second verse hook? Say like that maybe. Well,
I would say yeah, but there's something. Yeah, but I would say there's something underneath it, woven into the music, into like the fabric of really most of their albums and most of their songs that it stays with you. At least for me, it's like even though it's like you can look at it and classically and say, well, it's maybe not the showiest album or like the most groundbreaking thing, but it's like the music just stays with you. And I think part of it is the main lead singer's voice and his lyrics. He really does make it. His name is Matt Berninger, and he's a wild presence in person, but on stage, I should say. But I think really a lot of their charm or lasting appeal for me is specifically his voice because he has a baritone voice, and it's kind of unique to hear that sometimes in rock. But also like his lyrics linger with you. Like he has such a profound way of saying very simple phrases that hit you really hard.
Oh, like
it's
a
pretty
really
cool.
effective poet.
Yeah, I think that is part of what it is. Honestly, is like their lyrics really do feel like poetry more so
He's
than at
he's the
least for me.
Rugrat of punk pop revival, whatever it was.
Yeah, maybe the Nationals like Rugrat meets post punk.
They got inspired.
Yeah.
I mean,
That sounds really cool.
who wouldn't?
Sounds very different in a very intriguing way. I'd very curious to check them out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel
It's
like
interesting to me too because like I found albums that are very structured in that sense tend to age really badly for me. Like I really like Starboy by The Weeknd at first, but it's aged quite poorly for me because everything is just so structured and the same. So it's interesting to me that that actually had staying power for you, despite that structure. So
Yeah.
samey structure.
Yeah, it's slight, almost mildly perplexing to me too, because there's no other band or artist that, of like any time period that I really respect and really love the heck out of that I can say fit that bill. Because generally, if an artist does feel like very samey or kind of minimalist and not too like, I don't know why I keep saying crescendos, but I feel like that's kind of distinctive about their music, the lack of crescendos. And that's why, like we said, samey. Like if you like are listening to a lot of artists like that, I would think it wouldn't be that interesting. But for some reason, they're one that does get me, and emotionally, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I guess that's where the attention to detail and depth in on that deeper level. I think that's where it really comes into play there.
Yeah,
Like really a testament to how that can really add a lot of value to stuff that maybe on a surface level don't appear to be anything crazy.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it really creeps up on you. Yeah, with more listens.
Cool.
I love music like that. It definitely shows depth, and it shows. They didn't just show up one day and make a song and call it a day. Like they spent time on it.
Yeah, totally.